What is up, everyone? JD here. Hope you're doing well today. We're going to be jumping into the Giant Mouse Ace. I'm sorry, not the Ace, the Iona V2. Let's get into it. So I'm really excited to jump into this one here because it's a little bit of a different knife from Giant Mouse because this one actually has phosphoronze washers as opposed to being on ceramic bearings. So what we're going to do today is we're going to jump into some size comparisons, going to talk about the weight on this knife, and then we'll jump into my thoughts and impressions. Let's kick it off with some size comparisons. I got a couple of budget knives here that we're going to look at first. Here it is against the Pony Stout from Devo Knives. You can see this is a 2.87. I always mess that up, but it's a sub 3-inch blade. You can see that the Iona version 2 is just a little bit bigger, so this is definitely more a small size knife. And to prove that, I'm going to bring out the CJRB Pyrite Large. Like I said, this one's going to be more on the smaller end of things with a little bit more blade length, just slightly more than the Pony Stout, and just a little bit more handle length there. But we'll get back to that in a second. Since it is a smaller knife, we're going to do some comparisons for the profile against those smaller knives as well. Let's go ahead and bring out a couple of additional knives for those that need additional size reference. Here it is against the Spyderco Para 3, which is dead even with that. So phosphoronze washer knives, same size. And then we're going to bring out the Spyderco Shaman, which is going to be a larger comparison. So as I mentioned, you can see here that this is a smaller knife. And I think it's a very interesting offering. There's a couple of recent Giant Mouse knives that are on the smaller side, and I think that's going to be good for a lot of people for EDC. Here it is against the Tactile Knife Maverick. I love that knife. It's a great old knife. Another one with phosphoronze washers. And here is a medium knife. And this is really going to help folks realize that Iona is actually a smaller knife. So let's do some profile comparisons really quick, just to give you an idea how thin or thick the knife is. We're going to start against the Bug Out, which is going to be the thinnest knife on the table. And you're going to see here that the Iona is thicker than the Benchmade Bug Out. I know some people asked me to move my thumb because apparently that makes it harder to see, but hopefully that was a good enough comparison. It's going to probably be about the same thickness as a Para 3. So here you go, an Italian alternative to the Para 3. And then we'll bring out the Pony Stout from Devo Knives, which is going to be a little bit thinner. Now, let's check the weight really quick, because I haven't had a chance to check the weight on this one, and I am kind of curious to see how much this smaller knife weighs. Okay, the scale was taking its time there. So 3.4 ounces, and just by comparison, we're going to throw out the Para 3 out here, which is coming in at 2.5, so almost a full ounce less. And then the Bug Out with the titanium Flytanium scales should be 2.9, if I remember right. Yeah, 2.8. Okay, I think it always does that too. So the Iona 2 is going to be a little bit heavier than both of those knives, but it's not so heavy that I would say that I mean, you can tell after handling those two that it has a little bit more weight to it, but it's really not that bad. So let's go ahead and jump into some of the positives. So one, it's a phosphoronze washer knife, which means it's going to be less susceptible to dirt and debris. So if you are, cutting open some potting soil, if you're breaking down even cardboard, because that stuff there's small particles that could potentially get into the pivot when you're using that. The micarta on here, it is really well done. I swear, Giant Mouse, I don't know if they're using the same micarta all the time, the same company for their micarta, but it's really well done. I also like the fact that they did a little bit of milling right here to give you some aesthetics. You got that reversible deep carry pocket clip. They didn't bother with a lanyard hole or a lanyard pin, which is great at this size. You still can get 4 fingers on here to use the knife. Now with the ergos, the knife itself is very comfortable in hand, no issues with it whatsoever in hand, right? No hot spots. The issue I have with the larger hands is this contoured section here is actually really uncomfortable. I can't quite get my fingers to lay on the knife in a spot or in a way that feels comfortable. So that being that it is a smaller knife, this is going to be geared more towards folks that have a medium hand, at least in my opinion. But the jimping, even though I have a larger hand and it's not super comfortable, it lands in a really good spot and it's locked up solid. So I do appreciate that, because you see here you have about a 40% lockup. You have a little bit better access to the lock bar, which I think is going to be important for this small of a knife, because people are going to have to come in. This is not a fall shut knife. It's not going to be that type of knife. You're going to, it's a slow roller and it's a slow closer. You can flick it. I'm not saying you can't. It will flick open, and with a little polishing of the washers and a little bit of breaking in, it may start to fall shut. But as I demonstrated there, you really have to get into it if you want to open it. Think of like Spyderco Lockback more so than Spyderco compression lock knives, and that's kind of what you feel here with this particular knife. Now the stonewash finish on here is really well done. Look at that stonewash. I mean, it looks great. It even looks better in person. And I tried to move this light for the live streams, but unfortunately it's again washing out the knife a little bit. And but at night when I don't have the daylight, it's not quite so bad, but it looks really good. And again, the micarta on here, I don't know how many people have handled this, but it's starting to form a nice patina. You can kind of see more so the original color and then where everybody's come in contact with this one. Pocket clip goes in and out of the pocket really nicely, and it has the nested liners in here, but they are not milled at all. The only cut that you have there is the relief cut for the lock bar, but it is solid all the way through. The jimping on here is really good as well. I like the jimping because of the fact that it is a slow open, slow close knife. I feel like they did a real good job with the lock on there. Thumb studs are really comfortable, and it's a good slicey knife. That's what I forgot to do, was grab some paper. I did a little cardboard testing, and there was like a couple of spots that were on the blade that were a little iffy, but all in all, it was it's still pretty good. And the interesting thing about this knife is that, okay, it probably does need a stropping. It is CPM Magna Cut. Yeah, it definitely needs a strop. And I put that away, so we're not going to test that here. Or actually, I probably will strop it real quick and then we'll jump ahead. But it is CPM Magna Cut. Unfortunately, though, the Magna Cut heat treat is 61 to 62, so not bad, but it's not in its maximum performance range either. So hold on, let me get, I think this one, hold on. Yeah, so this one here has a little bit of a steeper angle, so I just had to find it real quick, and we'll jump ahead. All right, so we honed it, we stropped it back again. So let's just check it on the other end here. I'm not going to do any more after this. Yeah, so it's starting to come back. And I think if this would have been heat treated at like 63, 64, it probably wouldn't have lost its edge so quickly. But as you can see, it has started to come back. It probably just a little bit more stropping and honing of this particular blade would bring it back. It's just unfortunate because I really do feel like if they would have done the 63, 64 as opposed to 61, 62, even with the pass around, it probably would have been a little bit better. But I also don't know. I don't have access to what the prior reviewers have tested with. So I don't know how much cardboard it's been through, what type of cardboard it's been through, or heck, I don't even know what other type of cut test they may have done in the pass around. I generally just go through one or two cuts on the cardboard just to get a sense of the geometry, which is good. It's not super thick, it's not super thin, it's a medium geometry. For EDC, that's going to be great. You're going to hear a lot of reviewers talk about slicey, and slicey is important if you want a razor sharp edge and you want the thinnest possible blade that is going to be like butter through material, but that is not going to be the toughest scenario. So these medium geometries, as I refer to them, are going to give you really good cutting performance. They're going to feel plenty slicey, but they're also going to be tough and they're going to be strong. And as you get through, like if you are whittling wood or something like that with your pocket knife, your folding knife, that is going to be a little bit tougher, and it's going to be less susceptible to chipping, breaking, things of that nature. So overall, it's a good knife. It's $200 and it has a mediocre heat treat on MagnaCut. For that money, you can pick up the Para 3 with that Sprint run is still out there as of the making of this video, in S90V. It's going to have a similar geometry. The Para 3 is going to be a little bit more slicey, especially as you get out towards the tip, but it starts out very similar. It's going to have a tall flat run with almost no stop whatsoever, and it's going to have a better heat treat. It's going to have a better factory edge if you're not into sharpening. It just does. And this one has performed really well. I actually broke down one of the 2 boxes that our patio furniture came in, and it wouldn't slice through paper, and I tossed it. But oh, I got some over here. But I was able to just hone and strop that back, and man, I mean, it is not even a contest the way that this feels, compared to that Giant Mouse. So you're gonna get this knife for $140. It has a teal green, as they refer to it, a teal green FRN handle, but you're going to get some aftermarket support. You can get these Applied Weapon Tech scales like I picked up here. They're going to be really, really nice. They're going to have the pattern on there to add additional grip. For me, I can get all 4 fingers on this extremely comfortable, and this is going to be the alternative recommendation that I make if you're thinking about this knife, right? If this is in your price range, this is the knife that I'm going to recommend for you. Alternatively, if you want something under $100, I would recommend the new Civivi FG, Vision FG. This one here is going to have extremely good ergos. You're going to be able to choke up on this one. It has a very thin geometry on this. This one here is going to be more of those slicey type EDCs. It's going to have Nitro V, but the Nitro V on here, it's so easy to heat treat this consistently. I feel like it's going to perform just as well as that MagnaCut does at 6162. It'll be a negligible difference that you're going to see between these 2 blades, in my opinion. But it's a good knife. The build quality is there. The heat treat is not. I'd like to see a little bit higher. Oh, and the plunge grind right there. It actually already has a little bit of a smile right there. And I'll try to get that zoomed in for you, but a little bit of a, if they could have brought it back, or if they could have just put, I don't even have a knife out here that shows that. If they could have put a little bit of a choil there just to make it a little bit easier, or so that when you sharpen it, it doesn't come up with a smile. But I do wonder if this were to be sharpened with a fresh edge, if that MagnaCut would perform a little bit better, if it would hold better. But again, we're talking theoretics here, because I don't know what those prior reviewers who have already handled this have done to test on that edge. And I did just a little bit of a strop. I probably will strop it up a little bit more, because I don't want it to go to the next reviewer with a horrible edge and they're going to be like, can't tell you anything about the knife. But let me know what you think about this one. Interesting phosphor bronze washer, small knife. This one here could be a second carry that you throw in the back pocket, or it might fit in a pouch or something that you can put in a slip to drop in the pocket. Like I have this slip here. I did bring that out here to show you. And that'll actually hold my XOM. And I'll put all 3 of these and drop it down in the pocket, so I have all my gear together, not beating against each other, organized in the pocket. And it really works. But let me know what you think about this one. Interesting? Do you like the style? Thoughts on what Giant Mouse is doing with their MagnaCut heat treat? All that in the comments. Let me know. Don't forget the links are down there too for any of the stuff that I recommend or have shown off, in case you are interested. Those links do help the channel with a little bit of a kickback, so that I can use those funds for more knives for reviews and future giveaways. I want to give a shout out to everyone out there that leaves the likes, comments, and is subscribed. I appreciate all the support. I love you guys. I hope you have a fantastic week. Until next time, peace.